Okay, so let's begin by trying to post something. Now, if you notice here, we have a select category section. So we don't have a category yet, even in the database. So instead of trying to create categories first, we're going to just supply a default one for now so that we can get started with posting here. And the other thing is we don't have a post button here, so let's create that real quickly. So I'm going to go back to my this is the add post.blade.php. This is where the form is, and I just want to add one more input here, and that input is going to be submit, type submit. And the name, we don't need a name, we just want to write post here and change that to value like this. Okay, let's give it a class. Since we are in Bootstrap here, we're going to give it a class of button, and then we're going to say button primary. That should do. Okay, so there we go. We have a button right there. Right, so once we hit post, it's going to supply, we're going to post something here. But remember that we don't have a route for posting. This is why we're getting this error. So let's fix that error real quick by going to web. And in here, I'm just going to add one more route here. I'm just going to duplicate the one that exists here and simply change from get to post so that at least we have both of these supported for this route. And now if I come back here and try to post something, let's try and post something here. So you see that now it refreshes without giving us an error. So that is good news. Now the other thing is I wanted to increase the size of this summer note thing, and I tried to add a style here. But then I went back to the documentation, since there is documentation for this. So here, if you scroll down a bit, you see that you can give summer note some an object containing some parameters that you'd like to use. And look at that, there's height. So let's do that. So right here, we're just going to put an object by putting 2 curly brackets and then just saying height, put a full colon. Let's try 400 like that to represent the number of pixels. And if I come back here and refresh, maybe not resend that, let me just refresh like this. You see that it will load with that height in mind. Okay, so great. Now we can type some stuff here and actually post. Okay, good. Now the thing is, we can post all this, but let's see how SummerNote here handles handles content. So if I come back to my post here, the form, you see that I've named it content. This is the text area that we have. It's named content. So I just want to see how it's going to handle that file. So I'm going to go to the admin controller, and right here where I said add here, I just want to check if the method is equal to post, because remember that it passes through here twice when we're just refreshing the page, which is the get method, and when we post something, which is the post method. So let's put an if statement here and ask the request what type it is. So I'm just going to say request and type method. Because it's a function, I'll put 2 of those, 2 brackets, and say if it's equal to post, like that. Okay. So when it's equal to post, we'll do some stuff, otherwise we won't. So here, when something is posted, let's check in the request file, because normally when we are getting values, like for example the title, which is text, we're just going to use input like that and then request the input. But since this is a file, we're going to use file. So request file and file. Now the reason I'm putting file here is because this is what I named it here. Actually, where is this? There it is. Name. Where is name? There. So whatever name you put here, that's what you're going to use there as well. So this is where the file is contained. But for now, I want to deal with the content. So let me put input instead and then do content, because I want to check what SummerNote actually sends out as data, because I'm not familiar with it. So here what we will do instead, I want to save the information to a file. So I'm just going to say file put contents like this. So file put contents asks me for a file name. I'm just going to name the file hello.txt, and then it asks for the data that I want to save. So I'll just put that there instead. So whatever is inside the SummerNote, which is content, is going to be put to a file. Okay, now always when you just say file put contents and just put a file name there, it's obviously going to go to the public folder, because that's the base, because that's where the index page is. So as far as the program is concerned, everything is relative to the index page. So let's see what we get here. So I'm just going to test by saying hello there. That's the data I want to send. So I'll hit post, and of course it refreshes. But let's check in public now. We see that there's hello.txt there, just like we mentioned there. And if we check, this is the data it sends. So you see, it just doesn't send the text. It adds some extra content, break tags, paragraphs, and all that. But remember that SummerNote can add more than this. So let's try and add an image. But before I do this, let me just say some text first. This is an image. Press enter, and then let's try to add an image. Browse here. Let's find just some image somewhere. I don't want something too big. I want something extremely small. So let me see something that doesn't have sensitive data, if that's even possible. Let me just grab this arrow right here. So that's the arrow. And let's try 50%. Let me try 25%. Okay. So we have some, I changed that to see if the settings are saved as well. And then I'm just going to hit post. Okay. So let's come back here and look at the file again. So this time you see that it adds an image tag as expected. So there's the text and then there's an image tag. And then it's got even styles there. But then look at the source here. It's data image png base64. So what this means is that the file has been decoded or encoded to base64 and saved in here. So the thing is, if I add images that are 12 MB long or 20 MB long, that's going to be a big problem, because I have to save all that data to my database, and I don't want to slow down my database. As you can see, this is quite a big file. I have to scroll all the way to this side. So all this data will be saved in my database. But we can't have that, because the database should not have images directly there. We should put those on the file system and only save this right here, the file name itself, into the database. So we'll see how we're going to solve that problem, which should give you, I intentionally did this so that we can have practice on parsing data and how to deal with situations like this. Okay, so now that we know what is saved here, that's okay. But then let's look at file saving now. So I can just close this. We don't need to know about this anymore, and delete the hello.txt because we don't need it. And now the second part is, I want us to look at the image here. So browse I want us to be able to save the featured image. So last time we had issues saving a file because we had to jump through hoops and all that. But the bad news is we still have to jump through those hoops, but let's see a different way of doing things than what we learned a bit earlier. So if I load an image, I don't know what image to load here. Oh, the arrow, I guess. Where is that arrow again? I went too far there. Okay, there we go. So that's the image right there. So what I want to do here is, without data validation, all I want to do is say request. I want to save this file. Now, normally how we save this is like this. So let's do the save and go request. We're going to do file. And the file there is named file. That's the field that has the file. But then what you can do is you can use save here, like so. And then you tell it what folder you want to save to. So we're going to name our folder stuff, just so it's very different from the other folders. And then once we do that, that's actually enough to do. So I will put a semicolon there. So once I do request file and then save, it's going to save that file which is in the file location, and we're naming it file because that's what is named there. So let's give it a shot and see. So now on this location there's a storage folder. So if we look at what's in the storage folder right now, there's app, and then there's app, and then there's public, and then there's stuff, because I had added this stuff earlier, which I don't actually need. So let me right click here and click delete folder, just so we start with a clean slate. So app, I don't know why I have app like this. I think this is probably a mistake somewhere. But anyway, in any case, it will still illustrate the point. So let's come back here for a second and let me try and post this. So post. Okay, so save does not exist. So why does it not exist? Let's come back here and see method upload file save does not exist. Okay, so such a thing will happen from time to time. Okay, we're going to face problems like this. So this is why it's important to have your the documentation very close by. So as you can see here, the mistake that I made, instead of save, it's actually store. So very easy to forget these things. That's why the documentation should be your best friend. So let's put store here, and we should be back in business, as it says there. Yes. So let's give it another shot, shall we? I'm going to refresh the page, resend, and lo and behold, things look like they're working out. Now let's come back and look at where the file was saved. So you see now we have inside storage, inside app, we have the stuff folder. Okay, so if I open there, I will see that the file is in there. The only problem with this is the storage folder here is not accessible from the public side of things. So if I try to load this image in the browser, it's not going to work. The folder that we should be storing things is the public folder. Anything in the public folder can be read publicly, so that's the folder we should be storing things in, and it's easy to read because it's right next to the index page. So let me delete this one more time, delete this folder stuff. I don't need it. Probably don't need any of this, but I'll leave it there. So close that. So let's see how we can do things. Now, instead of doing the thing that we did last time to create a linked folder in the public folder, that was a nightmare as well. What we can do is a simpler nightmare by going to, let's go to the config folder, because this is where all the configuration happens. So let's look for a file that seems to indicate that it can have settings that we're looking for. In this case, we are looking for something to do with the file system, right? Because we want to save data. So it's nothing to do with the database, nothing to do with the cache, not authentication. It could be the app, but I think we have file system here, which makes more sense. So let's click there and explore what's in here. So coming down here, there's this location that says disks. Now this looks very familiar because when I try to save something, it's going to go to this storage folder. So looks like these are the settings we want. So these disks have names there. So I think we can create our own here. Let me right click here. Let me select this and duplicate that. Now when doing the duplicate here, be careful not to add 2 commas here. You're going to get some errors. So just remember that you just need 1 comma here and then down here and the second comma there. It's good that PHP now allows commas at the end of an array. That's good. So now that we've duplicated this, let's create this to be our very own version. So we're going to say my disk. That's what we will call it. Okay. Because normally what happens here is when we try to save, it automatically gets the settings that are here and does the saving. This is why things are going into the wrong folder that we don't want. So let's create our very own. We don't need this one right here. Let me remove that. Maybe we do need the visibility to be public. I'm not really sure. Leave the driver as local, but then let's change this because this seems to send it directly to the storage path. And so far the storage path is this because that's the storage folder. This is why we keep getting there. What we want is the public path. So let me change storage to public. So we want the public path, and then inside there I'm just going to call a folder called uploads. So since the folder does not exist, it will create that folder. So in the public path, it's going to create a folder called uploads, and then we're good to go. So that's all we need to do in this file systems configuration. So let me close that. We come back here to the store. So store, and here we have stuff. This is the folder we are supposed to store in. So I'm not really sure if we can, but we'll test that, no problem. For now, let's leave it as stuff here so it can create a folder. Then instead of just having a folder there, let's give it a second parameter, which is called disk, so it can read from here instead of using the default value. So let's do that. This is an array that I'm creating, so an array with one item, and disk is going to be my disk, which we just created a moment ago. So here we're telling it store this file inside a folder here, but use this disk. Okay, looks simple enough. Let's come back here and give it a shot. Browse. I think we have an arrow here again. Let me post that, and we are done. So let's see if things did go well enough. So inside the public folder, now we have a uploads folder and a stuff folder, and then we have our arrow. Pretty good. Here we don't have that anymore in the storage, so we can forget about the storage for now. But here I want to store in the public folder directly, so let's see if that can happen if we just put a slash here. Not sure, but let's give it a test, shall we, and discover it together. So put that and try to post. Well, let's go back and see what happens. And as you can see, it did work. It posted this in the main folder, so we can delete the stuff folder here. So delete folder, delete. Now we are inside the uploads folder and we have our image right there. Very, very nice. Okay, so now that we know how to save files, and we also know the content that the summer note gives us, we are now ready to actually make a post. Okay, so hopefully this was useful to get some orientation on the code that we're going to type after this. So I'll see you in the next video.